all right, all right. So your voice is going down little by little. So I would really like you to say what you just said again. Just be more loud than like what you said. When I said you should keep the volume higher, like your voice tone higher the first time. So from what I understand that you said you look at the 4 hour time frame, right? Then after you look at the 4 hour time frame, what time frame do you look at again for the support and resistance? Or will you just draw the 4 hour time frame, then you place the trade from there? Okay, so you draw your support and resistance on the 4 hour time frame, go to the 1 hour time frame to look for your entry. All right, that's a very good one. That's a very good one. All right, but it's more preferable when you draw it on the 4 hour time frame. Then you also, because the higher the time frame, the stronger the support zone or the resistance zone, right? So the higher the time frame, the stronger the support zone or the resistance zone. So whenever you draw your support and your resistance, whenever you draw your support and your resistance, the next thing you have to do is to go to your 1 hour time frame. Go to your 1 hour time frame to see if you have a support and resistance on the 1 hour time frame, because 1 hour is also a high time frame, but 4 hours is higher, right? So you have to focus on the 4 hour. You can also look at the daily as well to see the support and resistance zone there. But if you see support and resistance zone daily and you want to place a trade from there, you have to go down to 15 minutes time frame to place a trade. If you see a support and resistance, maybe you see the price on the 4 hour support zone, right? And you want to place a trade, you have to go to the lower time frame, like 15 minutes to place a trade. The 1 hour time frame is a very big uh, place to place a trade, unless what you are trading is you are swing trading. If you want to swing your trade, like you want to hold your trade maybe for days, for weeks, right? So that is swing trading. That is when you maybe place your trade from the 1 hour time frame. You understand? So you can't be day trading and placing your trade from 1 hour time frame.
Okay.
Yes. So if you are day trading, you have to place your trade from the 15 minutes time frame or from the 5 minutes time frame. So 15 is the highest should go when you are day trading. 15 minutes time frame when you want to place the trade. But your analysis should come from down from the daily time frame to the 4 hour time frame to the 1 hour time frame. Right? That's your analysis. But your placing of trade, your final analysis to place your trade should happen on the 15 minutes time frame. So just like what we did here, let me use this as a case study, right? This BCH USDT that's displaying on your screen right now that we are currently on the chart. So let me use this as an explanation. All right. So once you place a trade, once you want to place a trade here and you already came to the 1 hour and you drew your support and your resistance, and you are saying you want to place a trade from here. Now, from the analysis or from your explanation of resistance zone, right? The price is currently on resistance, right?
Yes.
So we should be looking at selling, right? Are we looking at selling or looking at buying? Or are we waiting
Uh,
to see something else from this 1 hour that we're looking at?
okay. We see at the current price. Um, this NFP we break this zone. What I was just thinking that this NFP will then do something like to get a particular maybe here, then I can then enter at here when I see a very good candlestick.
You said you're going to enter your cell when you see a bullish candlestick.
No, no, I mean that like now, like
Okay.
I said, since like this level it has already been broken,
Yeah.
uh, I'll wait, maybe I'll wait because I'm I'm not even sure whether this market will go up. So that's what I'm saying. Like I
All
wait
right.
for market to go up.
Okay. So the level has been broken. You want the market to buy, right?
Yes, yes,
So you're looking at a buy trade.
yes,
All right. All right. So you are waiting for a bullish candlestick to enter for a buy.
yes, something like that.
Okay. So whenever I see a bullish engulfing candlestick here, that's when you go for a buy, right?
Yes,
All right. So now, since you have already have that kind of, let's say, um, projection, right? You remember, you're just projecting, you're just speculating, right? You're saying, okay, since the price have already gotten to this point, I'm expecting a buy, right? So you are now giving a probability that you have more high percentage for a probability for a buy, right? So what we do from here now is we go to the 15 minutes time frame to see if we have something that's going to contradict. If we see something that's going to contradict our buy, then we see it clearly on the 15 minutes. If it's something that's going to approve our buy, right, give us more support for that buy projection, right, or that buy expectation, then that is what will fuel our decision to take a buy
okay.
or sell.
Just to put
So on this
it in
15 minutes, what are we looking at here? Are we seeing another possibility for buy, or we are seeing a possibility for sell?
I is
Remember, from the 1 hour, we already saw what we are seeing from the 1 hour is a buy possibility, right? So on 15 minutes,
yes,
have we seen a buy possibility or a sell possibility?
I haven't seen a buy. It's just like a
I didn't hear you.
it's, it's just like a sell. There's no
All right.
buy.
All right. On 15 minutes, we are still seeing a resistance zone up there, right? So there is this peak, the peak of the resistance zone is still up there.
You see this one.
Yes, yes, that peak of resistance zone. Yes, you can see we can see rejection happening there. Like the price is refusing to break that zone.
Yes, yes,
Yeah. So since we are seeing that rejection, and we can also see a consolidation happening there, right? If you zoom in, you will see that there's a consolidation happening on that current price. Can you see that?
yes, yes,
All right. So since there's a consolidation there and the price is refusing to break that resistance zone, so what we should be looking at this point is either we add our other confluence like our psychology level and trend line to decide if you're going to take this trade, right? Or if we want to take this trade strictly on support and resistance, we are seeing both a buy and a sell. So the only thing that will help us filter our decision for this trade is when we add our other confluences like support, sorry, like trend line, psychology level, high and low of the week. That is what will help us filter our decision to say, okay, let's have more confidence, add more confidence to this, and see what decision we're going to make at the end of the day. Because
okay,
you can actually buy from here from the 1 hour view, having it that we are supposed to buy, right? And the price is currently on the support, or we can actually sell from here, having it that the price is rejecting the resistance zone. Do you understand?
mm,
All right. So in this kind of trade, whenever I see this kind of trade and we are confused whether we are going to buy or sell, right? What we have to do is just wait. Wait until we see what we understand. Do you understand?
okay,
Yeah, so you don't actually rush into trades because you see just one thing, right? Or you are confused and you say, let me just take the risk. Yes, trading is risk, right? But wait for what you understand. The more you wait for what you understand, the better your chances of having winning trades. You understand? Just like the trades I sent out the trade yesterday, which hit take profit. I actually made a. I didn't send out the trade today, but I made the analysis, right. I should let me see if I can open it on my phone. I made the analysis and the trade went for the NFP news. The trade went actually well for the Navi, but I didn't send the trade out because I was a bit busy, so I didn't send it out. So this was the trade that happened today from this trend line. So the trade.
let me
So if you can see my screen, can you see this? Can I see that? Can I see my screen?
yes,
Yeah. So this is the trade. You can see this from the trend line right there. This price
yes,
on the
yes,
trend line, right?
yes,
So this was the point where we should have taken our trade from. I drew this trend line that was like the beginning of this week.
mm,
That's when I drew this trend line. So the price came to that same trend line again. That's opportunity for a sell right there. So I should have dropped the trade out at there. You can see from that point it sold. Let me take this ad out. So you can see from that point it sold, right? So that is
yes,
how
yes,
we add our confluences for that one. It keeps selling, it kept selling. And when the that was when the CPI news came. CPI news that sold it massively like that. So that is when we add our other confluences. So we don't actually place trade only based on support and resistance, but if you place trade based on just support and resistance, you can still end up being profitable once you use proper risk management, right? Proper risk management, meaning you only trade the particular things that you see, right? So now the particular things we are looking at is support, resistance, high and low of the week, psychology level, and trend line. You understand? So now I understand that you understand support and resistance. So let's move to the next one that you said you understand. So just explain the next one before we dive. We'll give an intro of what we'll be talking about today, which is trend line. Then I'll just give you an intro to it so that we won't rush it, right? Then we'll continue the class tomorrow. So let's talk about high and low of the week. Since you said you already know it, I also want to make revise with you what you already know. Then we'll dive into the one that we'll be talking about, that we'll be learning, right? So high and low of the week. What do you understand by high and low of the week, and how can you place it on the chart, and how can you trade with it? Can you give me the theoretical explanation?
okay. So, um, high and low of the week um, is the the support to the mark up on what I said.
I can't hear you. Can you please just speak louder, just like you were talking before?
I said that high and support and resistance should be in a resistance when market support
Support and
4 hours
resistance. That's what you said.
ago.
Can you please be audible? I can hear support and resistance, but I can't hear everything else you're saying.
Okay, I say that high and low of the week.
Okay, I can hear you very
Oh,
clear now, very clear.
that it can be seen as uh, a support and resistance. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very clear.
Okay, I say that it can be seen as support and resistance when market trend a higher time frame, just like a farm or maybe the daily.
When markets from Can you come again? What you just said?
Marked up when marked up in the 4 hour time frame or
When
the
okay, when
daily.
marked up on the 4 hour time frame. So how do you mark it up from the 4 hour time frame?
Um, I look I look at the current candle which has already formed. Maybe a 4 hour candle just finished burning until I just finished coming.
Okay,
I'll
when
just
the 4 hour can just finish forming. So what time are we looking at? Is it any 4 hour candlestick we are looking at, or is it do we have a specific 4 hour candlestick that we are supposed to look at?
no, I'm not looking at any 4 hour candle.
So are we looking
I'm
at
just
any 4 hour candlestick, or we are looking at specific 4 hour candlesticks?
I think we are looking at one that
We're looking at what?
we are looking at one that one that made um, uh,
I'm not hearing you anymore.
made a stable
I can hear you, but I'm not hearing your words. Hello? Can you hear me? Just bring the phone closer to you so I'll be able to hear you very well.
people. In the 4 hour candlestick, we are looking at the one that come it has already finished coming. The candle that has already finished coming. Maybe that
All right. So from what you're explaining, not really actually getting the theoretical definition of the higher law of the week. But since you said you already know it, I want you to share your screen and go to your 4 hour time frame. I want to see the candlestick that you are saying we should use for this high and low of the week to get our high of the week and our low of the week from what you know already. So if you are wrong, I'm going to tell you, okay, this is the correct part of it. And if you're right, I'll tell you, okay, yes, that's good. And I'll maybe just explain it in a better way. All right, can you share your screen? All right, I'm not seeing your screen yet. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? OG, OGD, OG. OG, are you calling? Yes, come for you. Hello. All right. All right. Can you try to join back? I can hear you clearly on this Telegram call. Can you try to join back? Okay, once you try with Telegram, is it the voice? Okay, okay. All right. So, try to join the link again. All right. Just click on the link. I'm still on the. All right. Just click on the link again.
Okay.
All right. I can hear you clearly now. So, I said you should share your screen.
You don't buy am for Bella girlfriend.
Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay. So this let me mark it up now.
All right. So, mark it up and tell me how and why you marked it up. What did you look at before you marked it up?
First, the screen clean.
Okay. I'm done marking it up.
All right. So, why did you choose that candlestick to mark up? So, what are your reasons for choosing that candlestick?
Okay. I marked it up so that if maybe the market breaks above it and returns to it, I
So
can
there's no dey there.
take a long trade. I can buy long so that I will buy long. Like if market breaks now
Okay.
and returns to it, then I will then buy long.
All right. So, from this explanation, I think no, this is not high and low of the week. Then we need to
Okay.
talk about high and low of the week. All right.
Okay.
But thank you for trying. That's a very good one. At least you have an idea of what it might look like. So it will make it more easier for us to talk about. You understand?
Okay.
So that's a very good one. So kudos to you for trying it out. This is a very good try. Right? Just a little correction. That's all you need to get this kind of view
Okay.
correctly. Yeah, but don't look for high and low of the week with this format. But just a little correction and you're good to go. But you try.
Okay.
We'll see. All right. So we were talking about trend line. So we'll just give an intro of trend line. We'll talk about high and low of the week as we go further, right? For now, we'll talk
Okay.
about trend line. Once we've done the trend line, we'll talk about psychology levels, and we have so much to talk about, right? So much to
Okay.
talk about. All right, we'll talk about time of the week, we'll talk about um, many other chart patterns, candlestick patterns as well. The head and shoulder, the rising wedge, the falling wedge. Then we'll also be including it as support and resistance using also the term order block, break of structure, um, liquidity, which is the SMC term that you said you look at other block while you trade, right? That's what you want to discuss
Okay.
earlier. You said you look
Yes.
at break of structure as well, right? So we'll be
Yes.
using those terms as well. Then I'll tell you what those terms also mean in price action.
As
And
well. Okay.
yes. So right now let's talk about trend line. So and many more things to talk about, but for now let's start with trend line. All right. So you said you're finding it going to draw your trend line. So we'll start from the trend line. So do you have your notes with you so you can write? You have your notes with you so you can write. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So let's talk about trend line. So do you have your notes to write with you over there?
Let me get.
Okay. So firstly, we'll start with the rule of trend line. So with the rule of the trend line, it will be very easier for us to understand how to draw our trend line anytime on the chart on any instrument, whether crypto, whether forex, whether stock, whether economy, and so on like that. Whether it's indices, whether it's futures, whether it's bonds, funds, and many more. So once you've gotten your notes, write trend line as a topic. Trend line.
Okay.
Good.
I'm done with that.
With that, we have written trend line.
Mm.
Right,
Yes.
so trend line definition. Trend line, trend line on the chart serves as support and resistance zone in a diagonal form Trend line on the chart serves as support and resistance zones in a diagonal form. Trend lines on the chart serves as support and resistance zone in
Yeah,
a diagonal
I'm,
form.
I'm done.
You're done. All right.
I'm done with that.
All right. It's full stop. It
Okay, I'm
slopes
done.
from left to right.
It's
Slopes from left to right.
done.
And
Done.
it can slope upward or downward. It slopes from left to right on the chart, and it can slope upwards or downwards.
I'm done with that.
Full stop. All right. So as a subtopic, you write types of trend line. Types of
Types.
trend line.
Types of trend plans.
Yes. So number one, we have
Um,
the uptrend trend line. Number two, we have the downtrend trend line.
I'm done with that.
All right. So uptrend trend line as a subtopic. Rules for, all right, that's rules for uptrend trend line. Rules for uptrend trend line, or rules to draw an uptrend trend line as a subtopic. Rule number one, rules to draw an uptrend trend line as a subtopic. Rule number one, are you there? Can you hear me? Let's continue. Where did we stop?
Uptrend trend line.
All right. So, what have you written about uptrend trend line?
Hmm?
What have you written on uptrend trend line?
Nothing, nothing. I have to.
Okay, rules for drawing uptrend trend line. Have you written that?
Yes, yes.
All right. So, rule number one. Rule number one.
Mhm.
It must be sloping for the uptrend trend line. Must be sloping from left to right. Must be sloping from left to right. That's rule number one. Rule number two.
I'm done with that.
Rule number two. It must be below the price.
Two is what?
It must be below the price. It must be below the price. Rule number two. Rule number three. It must be sloping upwards. It must be sloping upwards. Rule number one. It must be sloping from left to right. Rule number two.
Below the price, below the
It must be
price.
below the price. Rule number three.
It must be sloping
It
upwards.
must be sloping upwards. Rule number four. Whenever price comes to an uptrend trend line, it's the price we buy. Whenever price comes to an uptrend trend line, the price will buy. Whenever the price touches the uptrend trend line, the price will buy. Rule number four. Whenever price touches the uptrend trend line, the price will buy. Rule
Okay,
number
I've taken
five.
them.
Rule number five. A valid
Hmm.
uptrend trend line must happen two or more times. A valid uptrend trend line must happen two or more times. Rule number five, a valid uptrend trend line must happen two or more times. Rule number six, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Rule number six, whenever an uptrend trend line is broken, whenever an uptrend trend line is broken, it turns to a resistance zone. Whenever an uptrend trend line is broken, it turns to a resistance zone.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes, yes.
So that those are all the rules we're working with, right?
Yes.
So right now we'll focus on the uptrend trend line. We'll just do a brief intro on the chart. We won't really dive into it, but I'm going to give you a trend line as well. So once we finish writing it down, we'll do more of the theoretical aspect. Tomorrow we'll do more of the practical aspect. You understand?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So for the downtrend trend line, downtrend trend line. So the rules for drawing downtrend trend line on the chart, you can write that. So how many rules does the uptrend trend line have?
Six.
All right. So the down rules for drawing the downtrend trend line. Rules for drawing the downtrend trend line. Rule number one. Are you there?
Yes.
All right. So what's the rule number one for uptrend trend line?
It must be sloping
From left
from left to
to
right.
right. That's rule number one for drawing the downtrend trend line. It must be sloping from left to right. Rule number one. Just write it there. It must be sloping from left to right.
Okay, the same as the
Yes, the
uptrend
same as
trend
the
line.
uptrend trend line. What's rule number two for the uptrend trend line?
Mm, it must be below the price.
All right. So rule number two for the downtrend trend line, it must be above the price. Rule number two, above the price. So what's rule number three for the uptrend trend line?
Mm, it must be sloping upwards.
So rule number three for the downtrend trend line, it must be sloping downwards. Rule number three for the downtrend trend line, it must be sloping downwards. Are you there?
Yes.
All right. So what's rule number four for uptrend?
Whenever price comes to, to an uptrend trend line, the price we buy.
Okay, so whenever price comes to a downtrend trend line, rule number four, whenever price comes to a downtrend trend line, the price will sell. Whenever price comes to a downtrend trend line, the price will sell. All right.
Mm,
Are you there?
yes,
So what's
yes.
rule number five?
A valid uptrend line must happen two or more times.
A valid uptrend trend line must happen two or more times. A valid downtrend trend line, rule number five for the downtrend. A valid downtrend trend line must happen two or more times. A valid downtrend trend line must happen two or more times. Are you there?
Yes.
So what's rule number six?
Whenever an uptrend trend line is broken, it turns to a resistance zone.
Okay, whenever an uptrend trend line is broken, it turns to resistance zone. So the
Yes.
sixth rule for a downtrend, whenever a downtrend trend line is broken, it turns to a support zone. Whenever a downtrend trend line is broken, it turns to a support zone. All right, do you have any questions before we continue?
No.
All right. So now everything we've spoken in theory, I will explain today before we end the class in a few minutes time. I'm going to explain
It's
briefly.
8 minutes
The,
remaining.
all right. So with these 8 minutes, I'll briefly explain downtrend trend line.
Okay.
Sorry, which one did you do next first? Uptrend, right?
Yes,
So
uptrend.
okay, so I'll briefly explain uptrend trend line on the chart. Then tomorrow we'll dive into the practical majorly. So I'm going to share my screen right now. Once you can see my screen, you let me know.
I can see it.
All right. Can you see my chart?
Yes, yes.
All right. So we are on the chart on with USDT. which is WIF USDT. All right. So right
Yes.
now, let's explain the uptrend trend line before we move it to the price itself. Right. What's the rule number one for the uptrend trend line?
Um,
It must be
it
sloping
must be
from
sloping
left
from left to
to right.
right.
Remember, this is your left hand side. I must be sloping from left. It cannot slope from right to left. It must not slope from right to left. It must slope from left to
Mm.
right. What's rule number two?
Rule number two, it must be below the price.
It must be below the price. It must not be found above the price. It must be found below the price. When I say below the price, I'm talking about the candlestick, right? The candlestick is the price. You
Mm.
can say it must be below the candlestick. You can also put
Mm.
below the price slash candlestick. Whenever I say price, I'm talking about the candlestick. You understand? It must be below that the candlestick, right? So let's
Yes.
say for I was rule number three, it must be sloping upwards, right? So it
Yes,
must be
it
sloping
must be
upwards below the candlestick. So let's say this is the candlestick. This is the candlestick. So it must be below this candlestick. It must not be above. Whenever the candlestick is here, like this, that means this is no more. This is no more what an uptrend trend line. Do you understand?
yes.
Whenever if it's above the candlestick, it is no more uptrend trend line. It is something else, right? But it must be
Mm.
below the candlestick. If this line I'm drawing as the candlestick, it must be below the candlestick. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. So, what's the rule number four?
Rule number four, whenever price comes to it to an uptrend trend line, the price will buy.
All right. So, we want to get this price at this candle. This we want to draw this our line at the point that whenever price comes there is buying. Something like this. We want to see something like this there. Do you understand? So
Yes.
you can see whenever price come here, it's doing what? It's buying. If price come there again and touch it, it do what? It will
Buy.
buy. Do you understand? So that is where we want to
Yes.
draw as our uptrend trend line. Whenever we see all these rules met, rule number one is already met from left to right. Rule number two is already met. It's sloping what upwards, right?
Upwards. Yes.
That's rule number one. Rule number two, rule number three is already met, right? Rule number four is
Yes.
also met here when it says whenever price come there to buy, right? So
Yes.
it's met. So we
Yes.
are correct in this sense because we are following the rules. Whenever you follow the rules, you end up correct. Do you understand? Remember,
Yes.
I'm just giving you an intro into this chart. Why tomorrow we'll dive into the candlestick. So make sure you pay attention to this, so it will make it easier for us tomorrow. All right. So now, what's rule number five?
Rule number five, a value uptrend line must happen
Happen
two or more
two or more
times.
times. Now, when I say happen two or more times, whenever price comes to that trend line, you can see whenever it comes here, it will buy, right? Following rule number
Yes.
four. Now, that occurrence or that's happening that when it comes here to buy, it must happen two or more times. This is the first time it happened. It came there, it bought one, right? It came there again, it
Mm.
bought two. So whenever we see these two times that it came to that point of this uptrend trend line to buy, that makes this a valid uptrend trend line. That means you are saying this uptrend trend line is valid, meaning whenever price come here to this place again, we want to enter the market and place a buy trade. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because all our rule is already met. So what's that's rule number five, right? So what's
Mm.
number six?
Rule number six, whenever an uptrend trend line is broken,
It turns
it
to a
turns
resistance
to
zone.
a
All right. So
resistance.
whenever this uptrend trend line breaks like this, right? We
Mm.
are saying that once it breaks, once the price is coming back here, it will turn into this uptrend trend line to resistance zone and go down.
Yes.
Do you understand? It will turn into
Yes.
resistance zone, and you already understand resistance zone. The resistance zone is all about what? Whenever price comes to resistance zone, you do what? You sell. Do you
Mm.
understand? So whenever this trend line gets broken, right, it will come back
Yes.
there and turn that point that broke it into a resistance zone. Do you understand? So following these
Yes.
rules, you can do your own before tomorrow's class, you can do your own research following these exact same rules, right? Do you understand? So whenever if you have a question, you can easily say, okay, I follow the rule and okay, this is the question I'm having. So exactly everything in the rule, that's exactly why I explained here. So you can see we did it together from the rules we wrote down. That is how we got this structure, right? Do you understand?
Yes.
So that is basically how we do it. That is basically how we use the uptrend trend line to trade, following this rule, and that is how we get it right. We'll do more examples on this, so we tend to master it as we do it and repeat this practical over time. So let me take all these out. Let me take all these out. So I believe you understand what I said. Do you have any question for what I've said so far?
Um, no, no.
No questions at all.
Yeah.
All right. So do you understand what we did? What I did here? Do you understand the explanation I just gave now?
Yes.
All right. So now let's come to this chart, and let me just give a brief example before our time runs out on the
It's
chart.
only
All right.
1 minute.
All right. I'll use the 1 minute. So once the class ends, I'm going to call you on Telegram, and we'll just talk for a little bit before. But I won't be sharing the screen because I already explained what I want to explain today. We'll be waiting till tomorrow's class, or we'll just chat instead. You understand? So now let me
Yes.
quickly draw it, but make sure you do your research. Let me quickly draw this here, and I'll show you what I mean. So you can see right here, price came here, right? Just like what we drew.
Mm,
You can see when the price came here, right? It bought, right? It came there again, it bought again. That makes it what? A valid uptrend trend line. Do you understand?
yes.
Because all the rules are met, left to right. It occurs what? One time, two times, right? The sloping upwards is below the price. Do you understand? You are following all the rules. Now, once you have seen this second buy, on this third touch here, you can go for a buy trade, and you can see how well it plays out. Can you see? This is just looking at only trend line. Do you understand? All right. So I think the class has ended. All right. We'll continue tomorrow. Tomorrow is your practical. Today we just had to dive into it a little bit. Tomorrow is going to be the main practical. So make sure you still in touch. The link in the description is where you can get into the Telegram. Also, register XNES. Also register FBS. Anyone you wish, any other one you wish to use. There's so many other platforms out there, brokers that you can use, or you register for a prop firm, which is advisable. All right. So I remain myself, Delivery OG. Make sure you subscribe.